pelvic floor relaxation. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to relax or lengthen the pelvic floor with your breath. So there's all kinds of positions you can do this in. I'll demonstrate a couple of them. But when it comes to relaxing the pelvic floor, with our inhale naturally, our diaphragm that sits right here in our rib cage, our diaphragm contracts down. So then in response, our pelvic floor lengthens and descends. So that's what should happen on an inhale. However, if you're in a shallow breathing pattern, or some people have what we call a paradoxical breathing pattern where they actually suck up and in on their inhale, which reverses that whole process. We might need to work at some other things to retrain that, but what should happen is your diaphragm descends on your inhale, so your pelvic floor does as well. It's very slight, it's not a huge movement, but it just slightly descends. And that lengthening is important because we need our muscles to lengthen in order to then contract them up and in. What happens a lot is we hold tension in our pelvic floor muscles. Think of like a low level of tension, kind of like that chronic neck tightness that a lot of people have, or jaw tightness from clenching and holding their jaw. Think of that, but in the pelvic floor. Those muscles get tense. If they're always on tension, then when we load those muscles, so think of a jump or a cough or a sneeze, then if they're always on, they're gonna fatigue really quick, and that's when we get leaking or other symptoms such as maybe pelvic organ prolapse or something like that. So what happens then, they're fatigued because we're always holding tension in them, so they just can't work anymore, just like any other muscle. Think of holding your biceps like this all day long. You know, if you're always holding it tight like this, or an isometric contraction like this, then when you go to lengthen it and stretch it out, it's gonna be really tight and sore and tender, and it's not gonna work very well. Think of that, but in your pelvic floor, okay? If you're always holding the tightness there, then when we go to lengthen or when we go to load it, you know, it's gonna give. So we wanna learn to lengthen the pelvic floor so that we can properly learn how to strengthen and contract it, okay? So one visual is the flower bloom breath, okay? So the flower bloom breath is visualizing your pelvic floor muscles as a flower gently opening and blossoming on your inhale, and on your exhale, you're gonna keep them relaxed. So typically you might think of on your exhales where we wanna contract and lift the pelvic floor, but that's not what we're doing here because you're gonna focus on relaxing the pelvic floor. So inhale, release that tension as you think of that flower blossoming and blooming opening. Exhale, keep that flower blossomed and bloomed, okay? So you're not doing any contracting here, it's all relaxing. Sometimes it's very hard to feel this, and just by even thinking of that, some people have no idea what's going on. So sometimes we need to get you into positions that help that. And typically a full squat in different variations is beneficial. So to actually feel your pelvic floor lengthen. So I'm gonna demonstrate just a full deep squat here. Not everybody can get into this position. Some people need to be sitting on something, like have a foam roller here and kind of hugging their knees or holding on to something for more support, okay, with their heels down. But I'm gonna demonstrate like this. This puts your pelvic floor at a lengthened position so you can feel it a little bit more. So on my inhale, I'm sending my breath down. I feel my pelvic floor slightly lengthen. On my exhale, I'm keeping my pelvic floor lengthened. So this pelvic floor relaxation is actually very beneficial during pregnancy to learn to relax the pelvic floor muscles for birth. So the pelvic floor muscles relax to allow baby out. So it's also something that postpartum, when we carry increased tension or maybe have pelvic pain or pain with sex, that this is something we might need to work on to relax those muscles a little bit and let the tension go so we're not carrying that and having it lead to more pain. So inhale, pelvic floor lengthens and relaxes down. Exhale, I'm letting that stay lengthened and relaxed and open. Okay, so that's one position. Another common one is happy baby pose, modified here. Inhale, feel your sit bones move further apart. That's another way to feel if the pelvic floor is relaxing and lengthening, is those sit bones, your butt bones here, should almost feel like they're spreading further apart as the pelvic floor muscles are lengthened and relaxed. So again, on both your inhale and your exhale, you're keeping that pelvic floor open and relaxed. So this is great to do if maybe after workouts, just do a couple pelvic floor relaxation breathing exercises. Just spend 1 to 2 minutes working on deep breathing in these different positions so that as you inhale, your pelvic floor can lengthen and relax. As you exhale, you're keeping it relaxed. Sometimes people need feedback, so sitting on a foam roller or a small ball or something can help you feel those muscles a little bit more. And then also an internal assessment by a pelvic floor therapist is another option to know if you have a tight or carry increased tension in the pelvic floor. So if you're not sure and you're having symptoms, I definitely recommend an internal assessment by a pelvic floor therapist so that you know what's going on and you can rehab your body appropriately.